Greetings fans of great rock bands, this is Peter Skov from Music is a Journey. Today's video is in response to a contest from All the World's a Stage. Steve at All the World's a Stage has asked us to rank the 8 studio albums of Led Zeppelin. And he's asked for something a little bit special, extra. Steve is actually offering money. Yeah, sure, could always use that. Last time I checked, my wallet was full of receipts and a few coins. So, but anyway, yeah, whether it's money or not, I actually like this challenge because, you know, I've done quite a few ranking videos on here, different bands ranking the albums, but in all cases, I never give my ranking of the albums. What I like to do is to check what other people, how other people have ranked them on the internet, and then I do a kind of average score for all of them and present the kind of average ranking, usually over about 10 or 12 different lists if I can find that many. So this time is going to be the very first time in 5 years of Music is a Journey that I am actually going to rank a band's albums based on my own opinion. Now, Led Zeppelin, of course, that was a band I got into in the 1980s. I went through a period where Led Zeppelin was the only band I listened to, and that's not actually a remarkable thing. This is just something that I do. I get into a band and I just listen to their entire catalog, everything I can get a hold of. I just listen to it over and over until I really get an understanding of what I like. I make mixed playlists, I pick out my best songs, and then finally that moment passes and basically that band then kind of stays on a shelf where I might occasionally pull out an album or occasionally put some songs that I like on a playlist. And that's what happened with Led Zeppelin. I think other than when I bought the albums on CDs, I haven't been into a phase where I listen to nothing but Led Zeppelin. But you know, this year I've been doing these first 10 albums of a band videos, and it has given me a chance to go back and revisit some of these catalogs that I actually haven't listened to, in some cases for like 30 years. It's not that I haven't listened to those albums in 30 years, it's that I haven't listened to like 10 albums by one band straight consecutively. And in a way, it's been really great to go back and revisit some of these old albums and remind myself how the songs fit in the order of the album and how they fit in the evolution of the band's sound. So with Led Zeppelin, this was really a kind of a welcome chance because, you know, they are a legendary band, one of the best ever, at least in legendary status goes, and I knew their stuff inside out before, but I haven't really listened to more than like one album at a time over the last, 30 years or so, maybe even longer. Anyway, so here we go. I'm giving my ranking of the albums. Now, I just listened to them in the last couple of days. The last 4 or so I listened to this morning and tonight. My ranking of the albums is based on my reaction to listening to the albums here in the last couple of days. So which albums were really wonderful to hear again, which albums gave me the rush, that feeling, you know, where it's like, oh, it's so great to hear that song again the most often. And I knew what my number 8 was going to be, and I knew what my number 1 was going to be. I had a pretty good idea what my number 7 was, but it was the 2 to 6 rankings where there was a lot of like elbowing and jostling to get into their positions. And honestly, I'm not entirely satisfied with my selection, but it is based on my reaction from the last couple of days here. So let's get on with it. I do tend to talk a lot in my videos. All right, so first of all, no, not first of all. First of all, coming in 8th place is In Through the Outdoor, an album which I never had on CD. Had it on cassette in the 80s, of course. It was quite simply an album I could never really get into. I loved how it opens with those kind of like weird, kind of slightly muted effects, and you get these like, it sounds like bass pick drags, you know, with the sound effects, and then it comes in with In the Evening, and then the riff comes in. It's like, wow, what a great start to the album. But as I noticed, a lot of Led Zeppelin songs actually have a guitar riff that is pretty much repeated throughout the whole song, deviating only at the chorus. And there is not a lot of excitement to it. It starts off sounding really cool, but Led Zeppelin have some songs that pack in some surprises, pack in some punches here and there, and I find that some of them do not. And in the evening, the best part after the beginning is the part with the guitar solo. I really like the guitar solo, especially the second part of the guitar solo with the kind of slightly buzzing, distorted sound. Other than that, it is a good song, but it's just lacking a little something, I think. Then we get on to some of the other songs like Fool in the Rain. Nice idea, but it just does nothing for me. I don't know. Hot Dog, I kind of always liked that one. It was a bit quirky. I actually could play the opening on guitar long time ago. What else is there? Southbound Soiree, whatever. Yeah, it's okay. As a song that appears on a Led Zeppelin album, it's okay, but it's one that I can kind of get past and move on to something else. Carouselambra, never got into it. And I did listen to it on YouTube the other day just to see if maybe I'd changed my mind. But like Within the Evening, it just repeats that. It basically carries on through the whole song except for the middle part where things kind of slow down and get a bit smooth. So, didn't like it. I don't remember what else is on there. I'm Gonna Crawl and All of My Love. No. Thank You, Tangerine. There have been some great, Led Zeppelin ballads in the past. That one, no. An interesting thing I've always thought, Robert, what's his name? Robert Plant. I almost said Rob Halford. Robert Plant's voice on In Through the Outdoor sounds a lot like his voice on his upcoming solo albums that we would hear in the early 80s. And he does not sound like the Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin of the earlier albums. So I think that was also a point for me too where I couldn't get into it. So number 8 is In Through the Outdoor. And honestly, I don't see any need to have it on CD unless I really feel that I have to have all the studio albums of Led Zeppelin. But there are other fish to catch. So, moving on to number 7 then. You just picked up this one on CD. Ooh, was it last year or was it this year? I forget. Anyway, Led Zeppelin's Presence. And this also was an album I thought I didn't really need to have on CD. However, Achilles' Last Stand kept nagging at me like, you've got to get it, come on. And Achilles' Last Stand, there's a part of it that, it actually appears in a Ningen Isu song. I don't remember the name of it. Was it Yuki no Onna maybe? They actually put in some bits from that. And that reminded me that that song is kind of epic and I gotta hear it. So that's what encouraged me to buy this. And yes, Achilles' Last Stand is an epic piece. I would actually say it's an early example of kind of epic metal or progressive metal, like a very prototype version, even if the guitar sound is not particularly, crunchy or distorted. Just the feel of the song, the structure of the song, the lyrical content, everything, I think so. As for the rest of the album, so as I understand it, this album was supposed to be just a rock album. Just electric guitar, drums, bass, and vocals. That's it. No acoustic guitar tracks, nothing with synthesizer or piano, nothing really experimental. It's just a straight up guitar rock album. And for that, I actually find that it lacks compared to Led Zeppelin's previous albums. Yes, the songs are fine. I think Nobody's Fault But Mine was always a favorite of mine. I don't remember what the other one is. Candy Store Rock, is that it? Or Hot Sun for Nowhere? I don't remember. There's one other track that I thought was pretty good too. But for the most part, I don't particularly find this album to have enough diversity or excitement to it. And T for One, it's okay, but they've done better, more interesting kind of blues ballad type songs. So, I'm putting this at my number 7. Right. So now here's where things start to get kind of really messy, because from number 2 to number 6, I enjoyed listening to all of them. All right, and basically all of them had maybe one track that I was kind of like, about, but the rest of them I thought were pretty good. So in the end, we have to come to this one here for number 6, Led Zeppelin 3. This, I think, yeah, this is the one, the CD reissue that has the little, you can turn this thing here, like the old album actually was. I'm actually surprised because I had the cassette in the 80s, and the song order is different. Most of these albums, the song order on the cassette was different. And on the cassette, it was very obvious that this was largely an acoustic album. However, the order on this CD here, which I presume to be the order of the original one, shows a very electric band, a very electric rock band from the first beginning of the album. We have, of course, the Immigrant Song. Nice inspiration for Viking metal there. Also lacking a guitar solo, most curious. And the interesting thing is Robert Plant's famous, you know, "Ow." If you listen to Lucifer's Friend debut album from 1970, the opening track features French horns playing that same melody, whatever, a series of notes. And I always understood, oh, Lucifer's Friend were inspired by the Immigrant Song. However, it seems that it might be the other way around. Not exactly sure what came first, but anyway. We also have songs like Celebration Day, Out on the Tiles, and Since I've Been Loving You. 4 of the first 5 tracks all featuring electric guitar and pretty rockin'. Of course, Since I've Been Loving You is one of those blues ballads, but yeah, it's pretty electric. It's not until the second half that the acoustic guitar starts to take over more. Since I've Been Loving You has always been one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. I just feel it not only packs so much emotion in it, but musically and vocally, but it just has some like little surprises along the way that make it a bit different from your standard blues ballad, especially, you know, some other ones Led Zeppelin might have done. So I've always really liked that, especially the part about, you know, open my front door, hear my back door slam, I must have one of them new panels. And it's just really building up in the emotion there. So I've always thought that was a really great song. Tangerine, very pretty song. Most of the songs on here actually I quite liked. I think in the end it was just Hats Off to Roy Harper that did nothing for me. And on the cassette it did not close the album. Tangerine closed the album. Here, Hats Off to Roy Harper closes the album, and I just feel it's like a kind of toss-on song. Like, we tried this idea and thought it might work, and they put it on at the end, and it just leaves a kind of like, yeah, what else you got? That's it? Okay. But overall, I actually was surprised, knowing that this album has kind of a reputation for being way too acoustic compared to the other stuff. I actually found I pretty much like almost all of the tracks on here. So that's in for number 6. Oh, it gets really ugly now because it was really hard to do the ranking of the rest. So I just picked this one up on CD, this version recently of Physical Graffiti, and it has like all these like wonderful little, you know, the CDs come in here, and you can probably change the pictures around. You can slide the little card up and down. Anyway, of course, I had this on CD before. I actually had the Fat Boy jewel case, which I thought I still had, but I don't, which means I probably sold it several years ago with the idea that I was going to get this, and then I just never did. So finally, I do have it. I had, of course, in the iTunes library. I really like this album. There's a lot of variety on here. It's a double album. There might be a couple of songs which are not like really woo-ha, yippee-yay, but basically, there's not a song on here that I dislike. Some of the favorites: In My Time of Dying, In the Light, Down by the Seaside, 10 Years Gone. I've always loved those ones. The Rover I always liked for its kind of more heavier riff, and actually, once again, Ningen Isu use a bit of the Rover in one of their songs, and I was trying to find what album it was the other day. I've forgotten what album, what song, and I couldn't guess. But yeah, again, you know, Led Zeppelin inspiring that Japanese heavy metal band. Custard Pie, good rockin' song, but it's one of those Led Zeppelin songs where the guitar riff just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. You know, da 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 da, until they get to the chorus, and then it just repeats again. So it's like, yeah, all right. We know Led Zeppelin can be a lot more diverse and interesting, so when you find a song like that, it makes you wonder, like, why did they stick to just repeating the same riff? But anyway, whatever. They don't do that so often, so that's okay. What else did I find on here? The Wonton song. I forgot how much I liked that one. And it's probably one of the hardest, heaviest hitting songs on the album. And I like Robert Plant's, what I'm going to call his chewing gum vocals, because he will sing some line and then he'll kind of stretch out the last syllable and make his voice drop and down like, I can't remember what line it was in the song now. I was listening to it yesterday morning, but he does that, you know, I don't know if it's chewing gum or mozzarella cheese, whatever. And then, of course, the Wonton song has that part where the music stops and the electric guitar goes like, you know, and boom, it goes right back into it again. One of the things I noticed basically on pretty much all of the albums is I really like some of the accent points that John Bonham puts in. There are moments where he just does something that either emphasizes, you know, some of the beats in the song. For example, I think it's on Custard Pie where it's like drop down, that part. It goes like boom, boom, psh, like that for the drop down. And it's just really cool because you get that repeated thing. It's like, okay, that's what you're doing. And then he just, you know, puts those extra punches in. And the Wonton song has it. Kashmir has it. I don't remember what other songs have it now, but there were just times where, yeah, I remember the Wonton song is like, he's doing this kind of steady beat, and then he does this kind of sudden shuffle, like, you know, boom, 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 like this, and just great stuff. Then, surprisingly, you get a song like Boogie with Stu, where he plays the same beat through the whole song, just as boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, for the whole song. And it's like, you know, The Who could never have played this song, because Keith Moon would not be able to do that for more than 10 seconds before he would be off, going all over the place. But anyway, Physical Graffiti, I really like it. There's not a track on here that I don't like. There's some obviously I like more than others, but wonderful feeling, wonderful variety, great stuff. This could easily be number 2, or if it weren't for my number 1 pick, this could be number 1. I love it. What was that anyway? Was that number 5? Yeah, I guess it was. So here's another one. I kind of always liked this in the 80s, but when I got the CD, I don't know, was it 10 years ago or something? I finally bought the CD. I was surprised how much I liked pretty much the whole album. I always thought The Song Remains the Same was a brilliant song with brilliant music. I just don't like the part in Robert Plant's vocals where it's sped up a little bit. It just sounds a bit weird. He's already singing quite high anyway most of the time on these older albums, so it just sounds a bit weird. But a lot of these other ones, like the Rain song, is a brilliant, beautiful piece. Over the Hills and Far Away, Dear Maker, kind of interesting. No Quarter is just one of those, again, one of those songs I would put up there in maybe my top 10 Led Zeppelin songs. Always love that. Love the guitar sound. Love the mood with the keyboards. One part, it's hard to tell if it's a synthesizer or just a certain guitar sound. I'm pretty sure it's a guitar sound now. Again, John Bonham, when he comes in sometimes with the drums. Robert Plant's mood in his vocals, just a wonderful, wonderful track. The Ocean, just kind of a fun one. And yeah, I guess Dancin' Days is probably the only one I never really liked, although it's kind of okay. The Crunge is kind of funny. Like a kind of a joke song, but why not? You know, okay, it's not like Led Zeppelin were always serious anyway. So yeah, I've really come to like this one. Read a little bit about this on Wikipedia. Apparently the girl here also appears in the photos in the Presence album. What was her name now? Stephanie, I think it was. Or not, her brother was Stefan, she was Samantha. That's it, Samantha. Yeah, anyway, I like this album a lot. And again, like, I don't know, I could easily switch these around. It's really, really tough. Yeah, hard to say, hard to say. Now this one might be a bit of a surprise. I actually put this one here as number 3. And quite honestly, my response to listening to this tonight was not as warm as my response listening to these last other 2. So I could actually move it back more, but it just seems kind of sacrilege since this tends to be most people's favorite Led Zeppelin album. The running order on here is different from the cassette that I had, so I feel I heard this so many times on cassette that listening to it with this order here on the CD, which again is probably the original running order, it mixes my feelings up about how the album should sound. Black Dog, of course, a brilliant opening track. Wonderful guitar riff. Again, I used to be able to play that. I don't know if I still can. I really love the guitar sound. I like that they put the solo at the end. You know, being a heavy metal fan in the 80s, songs had their structure with the intro, verse, chorus, guitar solo, and however they wanted to finish it. And here the guitar solo closes the song. Plus, who the heck writes a rollicking, kick-ass rock song and puts two parts in where it's just uh, uh, and it works. It works brilliantly. So here, Rock and Roll is number 2. My cassette, that was the second last track, so it's kind of weird listening to a great rock song followed by another great rock song when I was used to hearing things differently. But Rock and Roll is just like another killer Led Zeppelin rock song. It just works on every level. Brilliant stuff. Battle of Evermore. Okay, so I only just found out maybe a few years ago that the second vocalist is a woman. I always thought it was Robert Plant singing in falsetto. Seriously, I did. I did not know about this other person. And the music is pretty, lyrics are interesting, but I find Robert Plant, one thing I really like about him is I think he is a very expressive vocalist. He puts so much guts into his singing sometimes. He can't always keep the note. He doesn't always hit the notes right. He's not always so smooth. He's not a great singer, but he is a fantastic vocalist on these early Led Zeppelin albums. And the one thing is that sometimes when he's singing those high notes and trying to hold them, he can't. And then you've got another person singing the high notes who is holding them, and it starts to sound like, okay, somebody's going off key here, somebody's not doing it right, and that kind of ruins the mood for me. So the Battle of Evermore has always had that thing where sometimes the vocals are like, couldn't we have done a take 2? Moving along, of course, Stairway to Heaven comes next. That was the album closer for me for a long time, so it's really weird hearing this coming in as the, side 1 closer. Yes, this is a track I would argue has no flaws to it. It is a wonderful, wonderful track. It is a landmark in rock and roll history. By listening to it tonight, I kind of just went like, okay, there's Stairway to Heaven. Let's get on to the guitar solo. Let's get on to the rock part near the end, and let's move on. What else was on this album? Let's hear that. So I can't say I totally got any rush from hearing that song this evening. Might be really naughty for me to say so. Misty Mountain Hop. Again, one of those songs that just keeps repeating the riff over and over and over, but it's a fun song with interesting lyrics and has some fun little bits here and there, so I like it. Four Sticks, again, another one kind of repetitive, but has some interesting change-ups in the music that, when you think the last song was kind of repetitive in the riff, so this one's going to do it the same, they bring in like these other parts, which are really kind of a nice touch. Going to California, always thought it was okay. And listening to it tonight, I thought, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was kind of singing along, remembering the lyrics. And then it's like the song just ends. Like, that's it. It just fades out and ends. It's like, wait. You had this good thing going. You had some nice lyrics. You were telling some different stories. And then, what, you ran out of ideas? Or like, it's just, I don't know what else to say. So let's just fade the song out. I think there could have been a little bit more to that one. I don't know. And then, of course, When the Levee Breaks. Again, this is another one of those songs that I would put in my top 10 Led Zeppelin songs. I love any time listening to that song. And there's a lot about like how the microphones were hanging, in the kind of entrance hall to this old manor house or something, how everything was set up to record the drums. I love the guitar sounds. I love the harmonica sounds. I love Robert Plant's expressive voice. Just everything works for me in that song. And I remember I watched a reaction video to this song a couple of years back, and at the beginning when the harmonica solo is going, the guy listening to it was like, man, what a guitarist, that guy can really play the guitar. I was kind of like, dude, it's a harmonica. And then after a bit he goes, is it a guitar or is it a harmonica? I'm like, the problem with you people, you young people these days, is you don't know the difference between a guitar and a freaking harmonica. Stop your sampling and actually learn to play something, for crying out loud. So, yeah. Anyway, love When the Levee Breaks. And for that reason, this album would probably, should be maybe higher on the list. But the rest of the songs didn't hit me as hard this time. So anyway, it's going at number 3. So, of course, now we're coming down to the last 2, and boy was I glad to hear this album today. Haven't heard it all the way through for a while. A Whole Lot of Love, it's a good start. Nice riff, bit simple, Okay, alright, yeah. But yeah, it's a classic, one of those recognizable classic riffs. Has that whole psychedelic section. I always thought the theremin parts was played with slide guitar, like not slide guitar, pick slides. Turns out it was a theremin. Didn't know that. I like the entrance to the guitar solo where it does that womp womp da 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 bum bum, because if you listen to I Ain't Got You by the Yardbirds from 1964 with Eric Clapton, you can hear where that comes from. You know, Jimmy Page was with the Yardbirds for a while, so probably that's where the idea came from, but that song also has this womp womp da 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 womp womp da 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 kind of thing. No, Whole Lotta Love is good, but it's the rest of the album I really, really love. This What Is and What Should Never Be, this kind of, you know, cool, smooth, jazzy thing mixed in with this more crunchy rock sound, and that guitar near the end, that da-dun, 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 da. Robert Plant again being very expressive in the vocals, John Bonham just hitting the drums in the right spots. The Lemon Song, loved it. John Paul Jones, you listen to the bass playing and he's got it going, but then he starts, you know, playing around a little bit and doing some different things. You get this part where it's like they start building it up. Robert Plant is, you know, bringing the excitement in his voice, fall right out of bed, wow, and, you know, the hammering of the guitar, and you think, oh, something's gonna happen, and both of them just drop out, and then just the bass and the drums are keeping the groove going. Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, you know, we got this. We're holding the song down. It's cool. Love it. Thank You, a very pretty ballad. I loved always the part with little drops of rain, whisper on the pane, tears of love lost in the days gone by. Love that part. You know, grew up in the 80s. I was a teen in the 80s where we had all these, you know, power ballads coming out everywhere, and Led Zeppelin were shown with Thank You and Tangerine a different way of doing ballads, and very, very pretty. Loved all the high organ notes at the end too. What do we have here? Heartbreaker, just the guitar solo is a little bit choppy, but what a great song. I love that actually during the verses you don't get much guitar, you get this nice growly bass coming in, and especially the part where the bass goes like do 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 do. It does it only one time, but it just breaks up the, you know, the regular pattern of it, and it's just very, very cool. Livin' Lovin' Maid, She's Just a Woman. I always thought it was a good song, but listening to it today, I felt Van Halen should have covered this. The original lineup of Van Halen, they should have covered this, because it is exactly that kind of fun, lively rock song, and it's got the vocal harmonies. I think Van Halen could have done a fantastic job of it. I don't know if they ever played it live in the early days or not, but they could have done a great, great job of that one. Ramble On, yeah, loved that one, always loved that one. Moby Dick, yeah, it's a, you know, great guitar riff, a drum solo that doesn't go on for too long. A lot of these drum solos in the early 70s would go on for 4 or 5 minutes. John Bonham does a nice job of keeping it at a modest level. And then we get to Bring It On Home, short but really cool. Robert Plant trying to do a kind of, you know, black American bluesman vocals at the beginning. Just nice, nice, nice. And then that riff, you know, da-da-da-da-down, da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, like every song on this album, Whole Lotta Love being probably my least favorite from it. Great, so really glad to hear that one again. So my number one pick, you know, if you've seen my videos before, I talk about loud, raucous, bombastic, noisy, scratchy music from the 60s. The more hellish it sounds, the more I love it. This album for me is like one of the first 4 major pillars in the history of heavy rock music. We start with Cream, Fresh Cream, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced?, Blue Cheer, Vincebus Eruptum, and then Led Zeppelin's debut album in January of 1969. January 1969, this would have fit in much better in January of 1970. This is ahead of its time. You know, whatever bar was being set at the time by other, you know, heavy psychedelic and hard rock bands, Led Zeppelin just went and raised that bar way, way up. I mean, we had, you know, Deep Purple were like, man, we got to get ourselves a new vocalist. I think Jeff Beck, when he heard this, he was just like, Jimmy, mate, I'm going to punch your teeth up next time I see you, because my album Truth was supposed to be the big hard rockin' album, and, you know, this totally outdone it. What can we say? Like, I listened to this, was it yesterday, and I was just loving it all the way through pretty much. Right from the opening one, Good Times, Bad Times, covered by Nuclear Assault, no less. Right from the beginning, you get a short, heavy, hard-hitting track, which changes course partway through. And you get these like little bass breaks. I love bass breaks. It's one of the things I love about Voivod. When the rest of the band just shuts up, and for about a bar or two, you get just bass going. And they do that right in here twice. Awesome. And this, you know, guitar solo. I love the guitar sound. The distortion sound is brilliant. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. What an epic track. You know, really epic. It's got the acoustic gentle part, the acoustic harder hitting part, and then you just get like the heavier chord part, the da 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 da. It just has this really epic feel to it. What is it? You Shook Me. Boy, that's killer. That's really killer. Again, they take a standard blues track and they add stuff in and they do stuff. Robert Plant is just really given it every bit of gut he has in the vocals. You've got that great guitar sound. Dazed and Confused, early metal track. No denying it. It's dark, it's heavy. It's basically a garage rock song lyrically, you know, about a guy who's been wronged by a woman. But the music is really freaking intense. Way better than what the Yardbirds were doing with it before. The actual guitar solo originally shows up in the Yardbirds song Think About It from the 1967 album Little Games. But just such a song, like you get the violin bow giving it that eerie feeling, and then suddenly the song breaks out in all intensity. Jimmy Page is really playing a terrifically choreographed but wonderful guitar solo, and then it breaks into these, you know, chords. Robert Plant's voice is going through the ceiling and returns back again with a, you know, thunderclap of drums. The walls of Jericho are just coming down over the drum set here, and it goes back into that mood and finishing up the song. Brilliant, brilliant piece of work. And side 2, what was it? Your Time Is Gonna Come. Nice touch for an album that was pretty much bombast all the way through, featuring all this, like, you know, organ, like flooding organ sounds. The very nice Black Countryside acoustic bit. I knew a girl from Fiji. I worked with her before. They played this album in its entirety one night, on one afternoon on the rock radio station. She heard it and she was just really impressed because, you know, this kind of like Indian percussion. She was like, because she was Fijian Indian, she just really thought like, wow, this sounds like the music of my people, which was pretty cool. And Communication Breakdown, once described as a speed burner, pretty good, you know, rockin' early heavy metal song. Why not, eh? Da 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 da. Why not? I Can't Quit You Baby is probably the song where I kind of ease back the most in my feeling about it. It's good, but it's just, you know, other tracks on here just have so much more to them. And How Many More Times is, again, one of those songs I would put in my favorite, you know, top 10 Led Zeppelin ones. Just what a monster epic cover of a blues song. Again, changing up something, putting something else in. Robert Plant giving so much power into the voice that he can't do that smoothly. His voice has to change over a bit, but it just shows how much he's putting into it. What a riff. It sounds like it's a weird time signature, but I think it actually is 4/4. It's like 1 and 2 and 3 4, 1 and 2 and 3 4, 1 and 2 and 3 4. I think it's 1 2 3 4, isn't it? But yeah, brilliant, brilliant track. Love this album. This has always been my favorite Led Zeppelin album. Love the sound. Love just how over the top it is, and just what they did for hard and heavy music. A year before, you know, Black Sabbath came out with their debut, a year before Deep Purple came out with In Rock, a year before Uriah Heep released their debut, this was already out there showing everybody how it's meant to be done. Cool. So that is my ranking of the 8 albums of Led Zeppelin. I could have done a running commentary for the last 2 or 3 of them, but anyway, that's it, Steve. Hope you haven't fallen asleep. So the other part of Steve's competition was to associate the number 500 with Led Zeppelin, because Steve was celebrating 500 subscribers. He has since cleared that, of course. And I thought, as a joke, I said, probably if you count the number of times Robert Plant sings Baby over the course of Led Zeppelin's albums, you could reach 500. And as a bit of curiosity, I checked it out on the internet. There was a Reddit post showing how many times the words babe or baby appear on each Led Zeppelin album, and the total comes to 355. So, still a bit of a long shot before hitting 500, but 355 times. I think it included Coda as well. So 355, then I thought about, okay, so over those albums, I think we have 81 songs. And when I checked this, I don't remember if that included Coda or not. But I've got 81 songs over 8 albums, so maybe I didn't check Coda for that. And then I checked what was the average age of the band members when the first album was released in January of 1968. And it was released shortly after Jimmy Page's birthday, so the average age of everyone was 22 years. And then I checked what was the average age of the band members at the time of John Bonham's passing in September of 1980. And the average age was 33.5, which brought me to a total of 499.5. Where was I going to get half a number? So yeah, okay, there's No Quarter. Led Zeppelin have a song, No Quarter. So a quarter adds, you know, another quarter. I am now a quarter of a point away from reaching 500. So I thought, where am I going to find a quarter? I did a little bit of searching on the internet, and then I made a discovery. In the year 2005, Led Zeppelin received their first Grammy Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2005, that is 25 years after John Bonham's death. 25 years is a quarter of a century. I got my last quarter, and I reached a grand total of 500. So, there you go, Steve, 500 and Led Zeppelin for your 500 subscribers. See you at 600 though, right? Coming soon, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, thanks for watching this long video and listening to all my rambling about Led Zeppelin albums, and I'll see you around for another video coming up probably within a week or so. Thanks everyone, take care, and enjoy the rest of the summer. Unless you're in the southern hemisphere, lucky for you where it's probably winter and cooler. Yay. Alright, bye.